Hi, everybody. My name's Dustin. I found out about NYC Mesh maybe in November, kind of by accident, actually looking around on Meetup. Mostly, I've been working on a computer vision project for the past year, just for my own purposes, and have been hunting for a data set to see if my approach works. So I found the data set, and it's NYC Mesh, which is very exciting for me. So I'm going to talk about restructuring our panoramas. This diagram shows node 231 in the order that it appears in when you look at it. And this is after I've done a restructuring to put it in a more coherent order. So let me talk about why this is important. And I'm going to be very I'm sort of new to NYC Mesh. I don't even have one on my unit, on my building itself. I haven't done an installation. So I'm making a lot of assumptions about how the workflow works. And I kind of want to be useful. So it'd be extremely helpful to me if you speak up and correct me if I get something wrong, or if it seems I'm spending time on something that sounds like it's useful to me, but not useful to you guys. Yeah? Yeah, I can. I'm going to need to switch back and forth. No, that's fine. Okay, cool. So this is, thanks to Andrew Dickinson for noticing this problem. We're gonna walk through 231 together. So, oh, sorry, did I say something? Okay, so here we are. We have a couple panoramas along here. I'm going to we're looking northeast-ish. I'm going to press the right arrow key, and that makes us turn left. A little bit confusing that we turn left, but whatever. I'm going to press the right arrow key again. Okay, we've actually flipped around this way, and I'm going to press the right arrow key one more time, and we've actually gone back 90 degrees. So that is disorienting, and that is fixed by this reordering that I showed here. Now, the reason why this matters is not because we insist on things being accurate, aesthetically. That is a trap that programmer people get caught in. What I'm really interested in is reducing disorientation and saving time and risk of mistakes. So we're not doing this because we want an accurate map. Accuracy doesn't matter. It's sort of utility. And especially if I imagine you're doing multiple tasks at once, maybe you're on top of a rooftop yourself, you want things to kind of be easy to fix and non-confusing. Coherent is one way of saying it. So fortunately, fixing this kind of happens for free using really basic computer vision that's been out for at least 20 years. I'm doing something called image registration using an algorithm called SIFT. There's lots of different algorithms. What I've done automatically is I look at, for each of these 4 images here, I attempt to find an overlap. This right here shows finding the overlap between 231 and 231A. This is a little confusion matrix that determines between each pairs there's a little connection, and then I can make a little carousel route around all 4 of them. So this is entirely just works magically for free with this one example that Andrew found. How nice. Maybe I can run it on all, I think about 6,000, 5,800 panoramas we have so far. That would be nice, and we would include this in MeshDB as another field for a given node. Here's the set of panoramas that they should be displayed in. But turns out it's actually not, most examples are not that clean. So this is a document where I've covered, let's see, is this, okay. Let me zoom in this a little bit. Actually, let me do this right. Here's a document where I've gone through a bunch of examples of our panoramas and sort of processed whether it makes sense to reorder them. It turns out very few of them are as clean as 231. A lot of them involve interesting zoom-ins that are relevant for someone taking a panorama and then a zoom in on a particular building. They're all kind of a little bit messy. Here's a few examples of me trying to figure out how to restructure them. It wouldn't, some of these I could take and just put them in a different order, but a lot of them have weird overlaps, 11282D is in fact kind of a zoom in on 11282. So I could put them in the right order, but if I'm gonna do all this work, to just change the order that they're shown as slides, that wouldn't seem to make it a lot more coherent. So I'm gonna do something a little bit more complicated. But before we get into that, I want to explain a little bit of where I'm coming from. So I've done a lot of machine learning and computer vision work. And I think the best way to describe it is sometimes I use the metaphor of like last mile for computer vision machine learning. Because you guys do internet connectivity, I think that metaphor works for you. I think sometimes when I describe what I do to machine learning engineers, I like use this diagram where people draw the circles, I kind of do the rest of the fucking owl. I've had to make stuff work. I worked on the Connect team. I worked on hand tracking at Meta for 3.5 years. It's kind of like making the rest of it work, which is all about details. So I got interested in this computer vision problem when I was looking at my like personal photo library, and I took like 30,000 photos over about 4 years, and there was some grass, and I just like never look at these again because there's so many things. So I've been thinking for a year about like how do you turn this whole morass of slides into like something that's like meaningful to navigate. So I wanted to apply that approach to NYC Mesh, and because right now you have like lots and lots of slides of photos, and I want to make it navigable. Just so you know what my motivation is. Okay, so I'm now going to describe my mental model of how panoramas are used, and I would love to be corrected if I got this wrong. So, as I understand it, from a given rooftop that you want to be connected after someone has uploaded a new panorama, can you see any existing nodes? That's one use case. So, and then from a rooftop that has a node, can it see another rooftop that wants to be connected? The photos themselves are taken by sort of individuals that aren't necessarily trained in taking this well. We have this like guide page that describes how to do it, but you're expecting sort of individuals that want their rooftop connected to go up and take photos themselves. The photos are kind of like messy, they're not organized, they're not necessarily gonna be in a consistent order, which is why when I've looked through all the panoramas, they're not ordered in a meaningful way. And it would kind of be unfair to expect to like give people really strict instructions that are kind of tedious and frankly hard to follow, and brittle, or I might call it. As I understand it, once photos are taken, they're revisited pretty often. You're not just like doing a single survey once and never looking at a photo again, or never looking at a panorama again. And they often get out of date for line of sight because due to new construction or new trees. So there's, or new trees, tree growth. So I know that there's a lot of Google Earth usage, but the line of sight in that is not necessarily trustworthy, and you'd much rather just have a ground truth of, please go up to your rooftop and take a photo. As I've looked around all these data sets, usually the photos are not taken from a single location on the roof. Like sometimes I'll see someone will walk to each corner of the roof. So like stitching techniques tend not to work as well. And also taking a photo of the roof is sort of helpful to know, like, is there a spot where we could actually put the antenna? And then sometimes I see documentations of the final install, which are sort of just nice to have. Have I got that right so far? I know that there's pretty heavy Google Earth usage. One pain point I think that you mentioned was that sometimes you want to stand on a roof in Google Earth and you want to look at another destination, but the field of view doesn't let you kind of zoom in as if it's a telescope, so you actually have to like walk forward, which is really awkward. I did find a way to manually set the FOV in Google Earth, but it is a pain in the ass to load, and you kind of have to like restart and reload files each time. So if someone wants to mess around with this, that would be really cool, but I don't. It seems like Google Earth really doesn't want you to do this. I wish it did. This is my understanding of the workflow. Sounds like I got it right. What a relief. So I just did some like course analysis of all the, let's see, oh yeah, link. I did some course analysis of all the data sets of all the panoramas. And I was looking for, and I'm gonna use the term node to mean, I'm probably using the term node wrong, to mean a set of panoramas that has a number on a rooftop. Like, is 231 a node? Do I have that right? Okay, let me know if I get it wrong. But I was just looking at how many photos are there per node. A great many of them have one, and then like it seems that most of them have between like 3 and 5, but some of them have up to 10 which is quite ridiculous. I wanted to get sort of a, because I was looking at like photo sets that involve panoramas and zoom-ins like this. Like this is kind of an interesting one where these panoramas are useful to like show the overview, but then like we have this individual photo here so you can see the node in the distance. I wanted to see a sense of you know, how many photos in our data set are panoramas, whereas how many are just like regular single shot photos. And so I made this like visualization of all the resolutions, which unfortunately was not very revealing. So here's the resolution of all of them. This is the X resolution, this is the Y resolution. And I was looking at the aspect ratios, and it seems like there's a little bump around like 4.5 to 1, but there's some with an aspect ratio of 12 to 1 out there. I assume most of the photos in this aspect ratio size are just like regular one-off photos, but I don't know what's going on here. What's that? Yeah. It's just interesting that there's not like a very incredibly obvious bump. It's just sort of smooth all the way out here. And then here's some examples of very large aspect ratios, which I think are not a panorama taken on the phone, but someone who stitched it together after the fact. So it seems that it happens some of the time. I'd really love to know why that happens. I am like quite curious. I don't know if people tried it a couple times and then abandoned it because it didn't work that well. Someone know? Yeah.
Could that be your phone software? Going at after it takes like the shots and then correcting it?
There's so many vendors of those out there that I personally use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very nice. I'm sure they
Android versus RAM.
So the way when it seems like most panoramas are 90 to 180 degree arcs in the data set, and then it seems that some people then do some mergings of those. But I don't know, it doesn't seem like that's part of the official instruction. Maybe people are just doing it for funsies. But it seems like it's pretty rare. Like I think 231 here, there is this merged mega panorama, which I'm going to talk about sort of the glitchiness of stitching in general, but like we have some sort of weird stuff over here. I've done a lot of work in computer vision, and I just trust stitching so much. So I just was curious what the use case was for this stuff, but it sounds like we're not sure.
I think I took that one. It's just a camera.
Yeah. Now we're on to this question, like, why not just take all the photos for a given node and stitch them all together? It's a very reasonable, sensible thing. We're all familiar with like stitching. We've all even seen like 3D scans that are taken from, you take like 80 photos and you can make a 3D scan of a room. So first off, stitching does produce kind of janky results. Here's a janky example here. Now, like where this building is kind of duplicated. So aesthetically, this is janky and maybe wrong and ugly, but like I don't know if the goal of these photos is primarily to see if a sightline works. I don't know if the stitching is actually a problem here. Like maybe stitching is generally fine, but for a lot of the like nodes, it seems like there's a lot of times where we just wouldn't expect stitching to work. So this is a case where someone's walked around a building and taken photos kind of from all corners, and there's just no way like stitching is going to reasonably work for this at all. There's a lot of solutions where you can end up with a 3D mesh from several photos. Meshroom has a mesh that Dan will show off later, but the purpose of these photos is to like zoom in like really closely and see like, can you see this node over here? And if you try to make a 3D model, it's just going to be messy. It's just really not the right idea. The next slide is going to be an aesthetic rant, so I gotta apologize in advance. So I want to, the purpose of these the photos we take is to sort of be clear when someone is looking around on a node, if they're not familiar with that environment, if it's not the rooftop where they're used to. So there's people in this group who certainly are used to looking at nodes regularly. There's people in this group who've like never looked at a particular node. We can kind of get distracted by thinking that the goal is to make an accurate map of the node that like looks visually true according to pixels, but really we're trying to make the map in our head. So we could do lots of like stitching or cleanup things to make it look like the real space, but really the idea is we want to produce the correct idea in our head. Has anyone heard of this like Samsung fake moon thing? So the gist is like a Samsung phone claims to have a really, there's this one particular Samsung phone that claims to have a really good like zoom in model. So you could like zoom in on the moon and it looks like the real moon. But actually if you zoom in on a street light that is spherical, it looks like the moon as well, because there's AI happening that if it sees a bright white sphere, it's like, that's probably the moon. So like any sort of attempt to like, basically don't trust AI, but any sort of attempt to clean things up that is trying to make a map in pixels, you shouldn't trust. You should trust the map in your brain. So what I want to do is I want to instead take like a bundle of panoramas for a given node. I want to apply the computer vision work I'm doing, and then I want to make something that's easy to navigate that makes it coherent rather than confusing. So let's go to this example I made here. So this is my own example of photos I took. This doesn't come from NYC Mesh yet. I took these photos like this, and if you flip through them, you'd see that you'd have to like kind of flip back and forth to make sense of them. But using the same automatic computer vision thing, I can instead do something like this, where each of these is like a really convenient zoom in there. So I think what's also the idea that's important here is like, Willard, where's Willard? Okay, sure. So the original idea back in the beginning was like, oh, we should just be able to like reorder things. Turns out based on how people actually take photos, there's lots of interesting zoom ins. There's lots of things that are out of order. There's lots of things that like overlap quite a bit. And I could go through some pretty in-depth examples here if you'd like to ask about them. But my goal is to make something that's a little bit more like this. Yeah. So what that looks like a little bit is instead of there just being a reordering like so, I'm gonna make this bigger. Instead of there just being like a corrected order, there's gonna be something that looks a little bit more like this, where each of these are photo files, and then there'll be like insets to other photo files, and the insets will be defined like a quad. A quad is like a four-sided generalized shape. Like these are quads here that describe where the inset photo is in its parent photo. And my goal is that the little algorithm I create will output something like this for each photo set. And maybe we have this thing right now. One of the things I'm interested in is maybe like making the like structured relationship a little bit clearer so you can tell what's going on. But these are just sketches right now. I don't really need feedback on them now. This is just me iterating. So I want to describe the workflow a little bit. And I'm describing an idealization of a workflow. And this is a really great chance for you to like tell me that this is not useful, or like really speak up if you really need something desperately. So someone submits or uploads photos to a system. The computer vision tries to structure things, and it does some error checking. And then once it's done that error checking, and it might demand like help from someone to label them properly, it will store those panos and that structured spec in MeshDB. So the error checking is in tiers like this. So none. We like everything magically works. Nothing is wrong. The computer vision couldn't place a particular photo. There's one sort of orphan photo. It doesn't know where it should go. Please help. So let me show a fun example here, and maybe someone knows what this example is. So here is a pretty reasonable rooftop. This second photo here lives here, right? So this photo is taken from there. This third photo is kind of a step back from here. I don't know why we took both these photos. That doesn't matter. And this fourth photo, you did? Please tell me where is this relative to here?
Yeah, you have to climb the old ladder, can't climb higher.
What's that?
You have to climb higher, Maurice. So yeah, it's on the top of the left side of on top of this.
Up here?
Yeah. Yeah, do we have a ladder?
Oh, I see, I see. Oh, okay. So, okay. Great. Cool. So I think my point here is that like this this is an install right now, so the install has already been successful. But if someone else is like going up to fix the install or something, it'd be nice for them to know where the hell it is. So the knowledge of the
Oh, believe me, we were really cold when we tried to get out of it. I know it's improper. We did this install actually with Andrew. We rushed. It was cold. We tried to get away, but yeah, should be better.
It always should be better. So what I'm really interested in is someone uploads these 4 photos. There's like a flag that says like, hey, I don't know where this photo went. You happen to know where it went right in time. A year from now, you might not remember, but like that's the sort of error catching that I'm like really interested in doing. And maybe I could like throw money and fossil fuels at a GPU and it would like do a bunch of like big brain stuff and figure out where it goes. Or you could just ask someone. So that's one type of error case. And I have a few examples that I found for that, if you want to see more. The other error case I'm kind of interested in is like, this is for an individual photo that's missing. The other one is like, we're missing connections between all those photos. Could you please take more? I can look at some. This might be, let's look at this one together. Okay, no idea what the relationship is there. Okay, this seems to be a zoom in, that's clear. I guess this over here is down here. This is,
I think that automatic feedback loop would be very helpful. Please don't take pictures of the roof. We want to see, it's very easy for it to see the roof, right?
Yeah.
And identify that and send a quick reaction to somebody that might be looking at their email within like the same minute when it runs that software and spits that back out.
Yeah, so I looked this up and I've forgotten already. So like, is this thing? No, that's not that. Anyway, my point is like while you're up and on a windy roof and it's cold, if you upload the photos to the system and it says like, hey, I'm missing a photo from this direction, that's the thing I'd love to catch just in time before someone goes home and like kind of forgets about it. And then of course, if computer vision is totally lost, I want to make a system where you can just like do this structuring manually, like kind of drag and drop it. And I've done a few mock-ups of what that looks like, but this is just some like fancy ideation where you might like drag it around. Yeah.
Like going back to Mike, but online someone says it's Note 329 Simona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is 329 here. Oh, is that a question or? Okay. Yeah. So it's good that you told me it's up here. I thought it was like maybe hidden back here somewhere.
It's behind. You have to go behind, but it's on top, basically. Yeah, it's on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So that's it. That's what I'm interested in trying out. So I'm in the Slack. Dustin Freeman is me. It's really helpful if you tell me what feels urgent or what's painful that I can like help fix. Because otherwise I'll do things that seem interesting to me. So please beg for me for things to be fixed. Or if you find something to be painful, please tell me a story. Yeah.
So I have the mic. I'll go first. So there's a couple different things here. So one is I going back to that notebook you had. I wonder if you had learned a time series. If over time our panoramas have merged into like more uniform formats or not. Because I imagine, when people were doing these pictures like, 5 years ago, maybe there were more aspect ratios then. I'm really curious about that.
Yeah,
but
I'm not. I mean, I was tempted to look that up. I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
I just wondered.
That's more of a funsies thing.
Yeah. But I bring that up because I think a lot of it is people like, I think the ratio of people who take the panoramas to people who actually install is to like 5 to 1 or something. So it's people going on the roofs and doing the panoramas and then hopefully send them to us and then maybe never get back to us.
Yeah.
So I think that third use case you have is really interesting where It's like if there's an issue that the computer vision can't solve, it's gonna like try to like get more feedback from that person.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know what that looks like when that person's maybe not invested in Mesh yet versus if it's one of us doing an install.
Yeah, like to be clear, if like, you know, I could make an experience where it like tells you to really carefully move and it says, get this guy, get below, but like people aren't gonna,
Right.
they're gonna like, they're not gonna do that. So
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I meant it the other way. It might like encourage them to be better.
yeah.
Like, so that's interesting. But also like going through the back catalog of pictures versus going forward is sort of different use cases. And so, and also, I don't have any questions. I just have thoughts.
Sure.
And the other thing is like, I feel like a lot of this is done on people's phones versus like, and I think right now the map works kind of okay when you're on a phone. And this is an opportunity to really make that experience better. Because it's really hard to figure out when you have like a landscape picture in your phone, like having it be like having touch points, be able to zoom in, be really cool.
Yes. I mean, when you say a lot of this is done on the phone, do you mean the original capture or like when someone is assessing
The analysis.
Sorry, what?
The analysis after that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, basically everything. I think we should assume is done on a phone at this point.
That's useful to me because I sort of assumed that the people that were doing the analysis of whether a node is connected or not were like looking through this interface and then also had Google Earth open.
Sure, but we're doing it on a cold roof on our phone, probably, maybe.
So as I understood it, when someone submits a new request, it goes somewhere and then someone analyzes it in a week or two.
Yeah.
But you're saying they do that on their phone?
So
Maybe it does it.
yeah. Well, that initial analysis, like Olivia's probably doing it on his computer, but
yeah.
When we revisit the panos, it's usually like because we're trying to get line of sight for a different building, we're trying to find adjacent buildings, and I just think
So
it's
is
a use
it?
case.
So I'd love for you to tell me the story. So you're on a building that you're about to install something on, and then you're looking at the viewpoint from another building, and then verifying you can be seen.
Yeah, or yeah, mostly I guess for adjacent buildings, or looking for. I don't know. I haven't done an install in a long time. I know what's gonna lead. I won't draw a rat around what you should point at. You load your photo. You load the lens.
Oh, cool. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So you see some images that have
Olivier or anyone else could do it as well, but Olivier draws red boxes around where potential hubs are that nodes could connect to, and that's what the installer uses to look for. So some images that are going to be in that database are going to have red boxes with a node number on them, and that's when Olivier has done that. Or some of them are raw and they do not have red boxes, and that's just generically uploaded things that maybe don't have a line of sight, or maybe we didn't go through the effort of that. So an installer on a rooftop would be looking at a photo. Yep, that's a post Olivier. That's a post Olivier. Yep, anything with red and text.
Oh, this is from Google Earth. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So when you go up to a rooftop, when you're doing the install, you have, well, maybe I'll be able to connect to one of these three, but I'm not sure. And I'll only know when I actually try it. Oh, not this one. Oh, maybe this one. Oh, this one finally. Like that's the, okay, cool.
Yeah, or you'll try and actually align the antenna, see what the signal parameters look like. And if it's not good, you'll switch over to the other one, right?
Okay, cool. Yeah. Thank you, this is useful.
How that will work over time, like over time, we're going to add another node and so on and so forth. We're going to ask to update the panorama. How this historically will work with your system? Will it merge to update the stitch to the new, or you will do new stitch altogether? Like, because probably would like to keep the historical data.
Yeah.
The new.
So I think the time tracking, that's not necessarily something I'm thinking about just yet. But that's more of a sort of like a MeshDB question. You probably, I think there's actually some examples in here where this jumps between seasons. So when you look at this here, you're like, well, obviously these photos were taken at different times. Yeah. Which one came first? I don't know. But because I've decided that like stitching is probably a bad idea anyway, and just making really clear navigation between photos. On this UI, you'd really want it to be clear which ones came most recently. I'm guessing on this current UI, probably the last ones came more recently. But I don't know. Yeah, it'd be really nice to have an automatic timestamp when was uploaded, or when was taken. I think that'll be in XF data in the photo. Yeah.
So I have a couple of comments from Olivier, who's watching the live stream. And he says, people send all kinds of format and all kinds of quality. In the past, we reduced the size to about 1 megabyte. Now I try to keep it as max 5 or 6 megabytes. And then he says, or arrow, I don't know what that means. But then he says about you, that maybe you should go on a few installs.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm ready. Well, the smallest photo we have in here is 5 kilobytes. So that's sort of lacking.
But your aspect ratios, you may reduce it.
Yeah.
And then he also says that they're shown in the order of the naming.
Yeah, they're showing in the order of the name. I'm not sure if that's date taken or just what they were named. But the order doesn't seem to match how they rotate around, which I wouldn't expect it to.
And he draws arrows while others draw boxes.
Yeah, so you can find me in the Slack. I guess,
Have you only played with the public panoramas dataset, or have you also played with the additional photos that we have in Dropbox? Were you aware that there's another repository of photos?
So I've only played with panoramas so far. I do, oh man, where am I find this?
Because I think there's actually a lot more photos in the Dropbox. I don't know. Maybe it's about the same order of
Let's
magnitude.
see if
but-
I, so when looking at the 1932 install, or just I was like poking around the Slack channel, and there's a lot of like really fun like setup photos, and I would love
Yeah,
to be
so
able to like add them to
there
the same
has-
structure.
There has been some attempt to aggregate those into a Dropbox, and we let's chat and see if we can get you access.
Yeah, but whatever feels most urgent to solve, like I would love to help solve them, because like the problem I want to solve in general, not just for NYC Mesh, is like making sense of huge photo data sets. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There is a large Dropbox full of photos. Yes. So I guess a couple of questions or comments. Agreeing with Akash earlier, I think that if you want to make this very useful for individuals to kind of like clean up that how to take panoramas thing, I think one of our biggest challenges, I think still, I'm not sure though, is getting people to take panoramas. And then if you do get them to take it, they have to email it. And then it goes into some ticket system, and then that ticket system has to be downloaded by somebody else and dropped somewhere else and then handled, and that's a big mess, right? I mean, it's working because people are doing it, but if you wanted to make it so that the users is like, here's your node number, and then, I don't know, progressive web app or something, and it just says, take a picture, take another one, take a third one. Willard's raising his hand, so he probably has something about it, but that would be an interesting way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it so when people email these in, sometimes the panoramas are too large and they don't like photo attachment? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea, Zach. Thank you very much for that. I guess I'll take this opportunity to plug the Panorama like app that I'm working on with somebody else. If anybody else wants to work on like actually properly like hosting and serving these panoramas with us, like please hit me up in Slack in like the MeshDB services channel. I'll post a thing. Because we do really want to build like a web app and a proper like flow for people to upload panoramas and like manage these data sets. So yeah.
Yeah, so here's an example of like, there's some stitching glitch going on here, which makes you mistrusted. Cool, I want to make sure, Dan, you have the next presentation, right? Okay. Thanks, everyone.